Very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our onboarding series of webinars. Following up with the last 2 weeks of sessions on the Lunch and Learn series of onboarding sessions, I'd like to continue this particular session around the accounting touchpoints and the client accounting requirements, including your obligations as a legal professional for the kind of documents that you may have to generate on an ongoing basis, as well as looking at all the possible accounting touchpoints or reports, including statements and accounts that you can generate for an individual client. And this could be ranging across matters. So today's conversation is going to be after you've done kind of your day-to-day activity. As you can see, we've kind of covered the last couple of sessions, how you would create a client, how you would create a contact or a client, create a matter, docket that matter, as well as disperse it, various different combinations of trust and general payments, doing trust transfers and Form 9As. And having done that, just before you can close out a particular matter, what level of accounting documentation can you or are you obligated to provide to your client, as well as the kind of accounting touchpoints and reports such as ledgers and journals that you are required to generate and keep ready for audit purposes on a timely manner. Okay, so these are the major 2 touch points that we're going to be talking in today's webinar. We're going to follow up this webinar with the next session, specifically focusing on, I would say, the business accounting nature of uLawPractice, where we handle all of your expenses, salaries, etc. We're going to look at that accounting aspect in our next session. So today, let's focus on continuing off where we left with the client and all of the accounting touch points that you would relate with regards to a particular client. Okay? So we went through this entire life cycle over the last few sessions, writing with engaging your client, right, performing conflict screens, as well as ensuring that you're creating a Law Society compliant matter or file. We looked at how we create multiple dockets for an individual client, multiple matters, disbursements, etc., how you would accept retainers, how the money is deposited into your trust account, right? And now let me jump into uLaw product. And the client, Bean Murphy, was the example that we had used in our previous session as well. Okay, and we actually have a couple of matters that we created. We had a speeding POA ticket, which did not have any trust retainers. You can see it was a pure play client payment for about $400 of flat rate work, including $100 and as well as $100 disbursement. Okay, we've actually, obviously, if you look at our analytics, we've had 1 invoice raised so far, and that was on the 2nd, and we actually accepted a client payment almost the same day, and hence the client owes us nothing right now. We moved on and created a second matter for Bean, Mr. Bean, and that was regarding a fence issue that Mr. Bean had with one of his neighbors. And if you look at really the analytics, which is always your best bet in uLaw to be able to ask any questions and quickly understand a matter's perspective. So we had a $1,000 deposit in trust. So this was an example where we looked at a $1,000 retainer, which was deposited into trust. As of today, that $1,000 has been withdrawn incomplete out of the trust account. But it'll be interesting to know what has happened and how that's happened. If you really look at it, you have an invoice of about $862.75, and the $1,000 was taken out, so I'd assume about $137 was refunded back as a retainer refund to the client. Okay? So here's really our situation. We've done all the right things, and now you're good to go to close this matter off and move on to generate all of the accounting touch points. Okay? So just before you would close out a particular matter, let's first use the speeding on Bay Street, and let's look at how you can logically close the matter and look at all the accounting touch points. If you actually generate a document, we call that as a statement. You can obviously generate trust if it's appropriate, as well as general ledgers for this client. So it's basically under document generation of that particular matter. So this is all with regards to one particular matter speeding on Bay Street. It's not about Bean Murphy. It is about the matter speeding on Bay Street. And if you look at our statements right at the bottom of our document generation, you've got your trust that you can generate. Obviously, it would not apply it to this matter. Let's cancel out. Let's generate a general ledger, okay, which certainly does apply. And it would be for the specific matter that I can quickly download. Okay. And there you go. It is for the speeding on Bay Street. So this is truly an accounting touch point. This is actually a very specific general ledger that you're creating for Mr. Bean Murphy. Again, even more specific to the matter speeding on Bay Street. So it tells you everything you need to know in a single snapshot. Let me just zoom in real quick. So you've got on the 2nd of March, we had done an invoice for about $400, which was $353 plus tax. We had another disbursement for an application fee, no taxes, and almost the same day we raised the invoice and we actually accepted the client payment, and that's the outstanding. So there's $0 in his general ledger at this particular time. Yep, so you've got everything you need to know about this particular matter for this client, generated right from the matter's perspective. Again, call statements, we just generated the general. Another favorite document of mine that I recommend to all our clients is the settlement and accounts. Okay, so you can divvy it up specifically just for accounts. You can do a high-level summary, you can do settlement, but we've created an interesting document which is the settlement and accounts. And I highly recommend that you generate it before you close that particular matter. Make sure you send it to your client, because it is a very thorough document that pretty much outlines each and every step that has been taken in that particular matter. Okay? So speeding on Bay Street, okay, on the 26th of February, each and every professional service that was rendered. You had a client meeting, so this really mirrors everything that's happened within your dockets. Okay? Very interesting document. It talks about all the professional services rendered. If there were any disbursements, also has an exact date stamp of when it happened. If you had any description around it, it would have that as well. But then comes interesting insights into when was that legal fee raised, when was that invoice billed. So we know it was on the same day, 2nd March, and it was for a total of $400, and it was only for the legal fee. Yeah. And then there was a disbursement, including same day, with the same invoice number, 2833. Okay, so this makes it very evident, very straightforward for your client to appreciate everything that's happened and all the work that has gone into closing that or ensuring that you're moving that matter from cradle to grave. Okay, obviously there was no HST charged. And finally, there was an invoice acceptance of payment, and this was accepted through a credit card, right? And we also have the transaction number, and it was for the entire $500. Okay. Were there any retainers? No. Were there any settlements? No. Any other trust funds, trust invoice payments? None of that applies to this particular matter. So this is a very matter-specific document, but very important nevertheless. Okay. Last but not the least, you look at your invoice balance, which is very important. You've signed this, and if you like, you can attach your general ledger along with it, but this one document should suffice that truly talks about everything that has happened in this particular matter. Once you've signed that and sent it to your client, then you can go ahead and close that particular matter. Okay? So you've pretty much done everything that you have to do. You've sent out the final settlement and account report and any other document that your client may request, and now you're ready to close that particular matter. Now let's move on and look at the fence issue. It kind of gives you a different flavor for the kind of transactions that have happened within that particular matter. Yeah? Same concept. So let's do the document generation, statements, and this time because there are trust funds involved, you are able to generate a trust ledger, if you like, for that specific matter, which is the fence issue. Okay? And you could do the same thing for a general, or you could do the same thing for, okay, let me go ahead and generate that trust ledger. Again, specific to the fence issue. There you go. You had $1,000 that you accepted as a retainer, and there was a disbursement or an invoice that was done for $762 and for $100. And what's happened is interesting to note that there was a retainer refund. So $862.75 was all that you had taken from trust into your general, and you refunded, or the client was refunded back by the lawyer $137.25, again leaving this trust ledger with zero balance. Okay, so you're quickly able to capture that. If you want further information about each and every transaction that's happened, as I mentioned earlier, well, let's go back to our statements and look at our settlements and account statement. And this is a very interesting document because you can at any time really understand everything that has entailed in a particular matter. So let's open that up as well. So you can see it's clearly titled for the fence issue. We've got the file number. There's no mistakes to be done here. All the professional services rendered with the dates. Got the disbursements. And then you've got numbers. These are all the accounting touch points. So when was the retainer accepted? It was on the 2nd of March by a check of $656 for this particular file for $1,000. Yeah. Interestingly enough, obviously it was the demo, so it was the same day we had refunded a retainer using our own check or the lawyer's check of $456,556, and we'd written a refund retainer of $137.25. Okay. The total of $862.75 is what the lawyer had made, and that was through a combination of the legal fee of $762.75 and a $100 disbursement for an application fee. Okay, so it clearly outlines the exact touch points of every accounting number in this particular matter. You've got the $762.75 and the $100, and the $862.75 was the actual money that was transferred from your trust account into your general account. Okay? It gives you a further summary of the statements. $1,000, taken out another $137.25 for the refund retainer. The remaining $862.75 was the trust invoice that was transferred from the trust account into your general account. Okay, so this particular document, when you send this to your client, you can be rest assured that from an accounting standpoint, as well as all the numbers that overlay within a matter, that your client's going to be pretty happy with a summary of what you've provided for the service quality and for the dollars that you've asked for. Okay? And it's an important document from your sanity's perspective, because you can be now clear of your conscience to go forward and close that matter. Because you want to always keep your focus always on the active files, right? The last thing you want to do is have to deal with a matter that's already closed. So let's go ahead and close this particular matter as well. Now, from an accounting touch point, specific to a client or even specific to a matter, we've clearly illustrated in the last 15 minutes of how you would go ahead and generate compliant documents that are meaningful to close matters that you can send out to your clients just before you do so. Okay? So that's a good summary, and hopefully it was your time well spent to look at those aspects. Fantastic. So let's move along. So it doesn't end there, right? So these are all the things that you do specific to a matter, day-to-day activities. Okay? Now, if you look at our help, it's one of the most overlooked aspects of the product. We've actually introduced we obviously always had the user guide, which talks to you about how you would use the product. But we've also created what we call a compliance guide as well as an audit guide. Let me open up that compliance guide real quick. Okay, it gives you a very good perspective of what we're speaking here. All right. Go ahead and expand this. Basically, what we're trying to illustrate is, as a legal professional, you have activities to perform on a timely manner. The activities could be a day-to-day task, like everything we spoke about, right, from adding a client, adding a matter, docketing, etc. Okay, and then we've kind of divvied it up to maybe interesting transactions or activities that you may want to consider on a weekly basis. Okay, and then on a monthly basis, quarterly, and then on an annual basis. Okay, that's our take of how you can maximize your effort and time in ensuring that you have a very compliant legal firm. And we've looked at the daily. I'm going to skip that. Let's move on to what we think are very good examples of weekly activities and checklists that you want to consider. On a weekly basis, we recommend that you look at your transactions, especially when it comes to both trust and general, and compare it with what you have on your bookkeeping software, uLaw in this case, and your real-life transactions that reflect in your bank account. Okay, and you may, depending on your situation, if you're dealing with both trust and general, you would obviously have two bank accounts, and it's important, as you know, to reconcile these bank accounts on a monthly basis. I'm going to go ahead and showcase to you later today as to how we've made it simple enough that you can actually do this if you like a quick checkpoint on a weekly basis too. So let's understand the importance of reviewing your bank transactions on a weekly basis. And the reason we say weekly is because you then can be on top of those numbers as your memory serves them well. Because a week's memory is far better sometimes a month's memory, right? Because especially if you're dealing with a lot of transactions, you want to stay ahead, top of all of the transactions on a weekly basis. Make sure that you're reviewing your bank transactions. Even better, ensure that all the transactions that you have in your bank reflect in uLaw. Okay? So for some reason, that particular check that you deposited in the bank was, again, not reflected in uLaw, that's a data entry job that you want to do right away. Again, review all of your active clients. As I said, focus your attention on all the active clients and see if you can do that settlement account statement and close out all of the closed matters. You can generate work in progress reports, and I'll show you real quick how you can do that, and ensure that you have docketed all the items that you had planned for in that particular week, okay? Because that's money to be made. Any disbursements that you have already paid for, ensure that's reflected and they match between the bank and as fast as possible within uLaw. For example, if you made a disbursement on the 5th of March or even the 1st of March for an application fee for a specific matter, you don't want to leave it till the 15th to the 21st to the 31st of March to catch up reporting that transaction in uLaw. You want to do it that same week if you can, right? So it's a great candidate for you to look at that particular week. And as we discussed, look at the work in progress items on that week and make sure that you've docketed everything that you need to docket for that particular week. If you've docketed all the effort, make sure that you follow up with generating all the invoices and ensuring that it's sent to your client so that you can do all the appropriate trust transfers or wait for your client payment. Okay? If there are trust transfers involved, make sure you do it on a weekly basis as well. I know it seems like an overwhelming set of tasks and checklists, but believe it or not, the more often you get into a discipline of being able to deliver this, you're just going to be sleeping better every week. And you don't have to worry about that audit. You don't have to worry about generating those trust reconciliations on a monthly basis, because that would be a breeze once you do this on a weekly basis. Okay, and these are, again, a little bit more from a practice management standpoint. Follow up with clients, understanding if there are any issues or if there's any unpaid invoices, if there's any tasks or issues with that invoice. Okay. Obviously, generate non-engagement letters. All right. So let me just take a pause right here and kind of look at the work in progress report. And you can generate that within your calendar, which is it's a timely report, time-based report rather. So if you were to click this little arrow, action, you see under document generation a work in progress. And you can actually have a specific date range, even say weekly. Okay. Let me go ahead and generate that work in progress report. Again, all of this relates to, there's obviously two matters, one from Ms. Karen and for Ms. Ava, where you have planned to actually go ahead and docket, yet to docket that. Okay? So today's the 9th. We've got about unbilled 5 hours. Let's quickly do that. How would you do that? You'd go into contacts, or actually even better, you could have gone into quick view. Let's do that then. Now let's type in the client, just Ava. Purchase of a house. Click on that particular docket or file. That's going to help me jump right into that matter. And you can see there's the invoice pending. And here's that 3 hours of work. Let's go ahead and generate that invoice real quick. Again, just catching up with what needs to be done on a timely manner. Okay? And that's all there is. And the reason we do that is the sooner you can do that and relate it to real-life transactions, because what's written in the bank is set. You can't change that. If the money got deposited on the 9th, it got deposited on the 9th. You're not going to be able to change that. So the sooner you catch up uLaw with the real-life transactions, when time comes for the end of the month to do your reconciliation, both for trust and for general, it's just you don't have to deal with any data entry anymore. There's no surprises, there's no heartbreaks, shocks, none of that. Okay? You're going to be confident when you press the reconciliation button. And that's our goal. So let's wait for that document to generate. There's the invoice. It's all good. Go back and generate that work in progress again. You obviously should not find the Ava matter. Okay? There you go. Okay. Now let me jump into my accounting aspect. And this is kind of the second phase of all the documents that you can generate on a weekly basis that have accounting touch points. Okay? Now we're going to cover the left-hand side of the accounting, which is truly your business accounting, your chart of accounts, and all the good stuff, how you can bring in your expense accounts, how you can add expenses. We're going to cover that in our next session. But today, let's continue down the path of all the legal compliant documents that are more or less client-specific or specific to your legal aspect of accounting. Now, we've generated or created this new menu option called compliance. You obviously can generate ledgers, journals. Trust balance is a very important document, as well as do your reconciliation as individual menu options. And you can generate obviously the balance sheet, trial balance, all those reports that you need, or use our analytical engine. But from a legal compliance, it's all wrapped into one space. If you click on the compliance panel, it makes it very specific. These are all of the documents that the Law Society expects out of you on a monthly basis. Okay? Now, one of the first documents that you probably want to look at is your reconciliation. So let's do a trust reconciliation first. And let's understand how you can actually do something on a weekly basis so that you're ensuring that you're on top of all the transactions that have happened in that particular week. Okay? In the past, you probably, as a legal professional, were unable to do such a thing, either because of the software that was being used or just because of the manual way that you were doing things. But with uLaw, you now have that opportunity. Let's do that trust reconciliation. I'm going to close out. Now, as it stands in my test database that I'm using right now, there are, interestingly, 2 transactions, same for the same individual client, James Brown. There's a retainer that we accepted for $500, and this happened on the 7th, and there's actually the trust transfer that was done and money deposited into general on the 8th. Now, what's expected at this time from a reconciliation standpoint is At this very moment, you pause uLaw, you actually open up your TD or RBC, CIFBC, your bank, your electronic bank account. Okay, so you log in and you choose the date. So let's say week ending 9th. Okay, and you would do the same thing with your bank. You would choose the week ending of the 9th, and you would look at all the transactions that the trust account has. Really, right? If you don't see a particular transaction in uLaw, it means that you have either in a previous reconciliation already caught that, or you've failed to enter that data. If you have failed to enter that data, then you obviously have to go back into uLaw, enter that for a particular client. But if there are only 2 transactions in your bank, and those are these 2 transactions, then you're going to just choose the bank date. And if it's the 7th, that's great. And for some reason, if it's the same date, let's do that. Okay, so you're going to confirm through this reconciliation process for this particular week, these are the only 2 transactions that you had to deal with, and it's there in your uLaw, and it's there in your bank account. Obviously, you're going to tell us what your balance is. It would have to be the same in your bank. Okay? Now, you don't want to do the reconciliation because you want to keep that for the month end. Just generate one document that's meaningful for the entire month. But what's important is you can actually do a preview, a very cool document. So you can actually generate, I would say, an interim reconciliation report. But that's more in the form of a preview because you just want to make sure the numbers match and that you're staying on top of your numbers. And you can generate this preview for this week. Wrong document. There you go. There you go. So you've got a reconciled preview of that weekly reconciliation, okay, of those 2 transactions that happened this particular week. So it obviously talks about as of the 9th for a particular date range, okay? And obviously lists down your client's trust listing. And this is very, very powerful because you can now start to generate such previews for each of your week ending, okay? So you're pretty much catching up every week what's happened that week, generating the preview, keeping it ready. And when month end comes on the 31st of March, you would obviously have maybe 10 transactions, but you've already ensured that you reviewed all those transactions. So when you come back month end and do the same thing, compliance, trust reconciliation, you would see maybe 10 transactions, but you'll be so confident that you've already dealt with these 10 transactions because you caught them on a weekly basis. You would then just go ahead, check them one at a time with full confidence, put the balance, right? And then actually hit the reconciliation button, not the preview, but at the month end, you would actually generate a reconciliation report. Okay? Obviously, the reconciliation report is then, that's the document that you save on a monthly basis so that you can present it to your auditors when they ask you for it. Now that you've done your reconciliation, and we'll wait for it to download. Oh, there it is. Let's go ahead and open it up. It's the same, pretty much the same set of numbers, but without the watermark of preview. Okay? Now once you've done that, we actually looked at how Mr. Bean Murphy had individual 2 matters, and we looked at individual at a matter level, the trust and general ledgers, right, and the settlements and accounts. But what if you wanted to look at on a timely manner, on a monthly basis? Then this is really where you would go to generate those documents. So let's look at all of the monthly documents that you can generate. So first, let's start with your client's trust. Let's pick and choose a date range. So I'm actually going to say monthly for the month of March till the end of March, and I'm going to do it for all clients. Now, I can do it for a specific client. When I do it for a specific client, let's do it one at a time. I can generate a document specific to, in this case now it's a client. And you notice the beauty of this document that it does encapsulate, in fact it aggregates both of those matters that you dealt with. The fence issue from Bean Murphy, as well as it generates, as part of this document, the closed matter as well. Okay? But instead of doing that, let me actually generate it for a date range. Let's say client's trust. And I'm going to generate this for the month of March. What happens is it's not just the Bean Murphy document, it actually does it for all the clients that you've touched based that particular month. Okay? Likewise, you can do a general reconciliation, which in fact allows you to import your bank statement. I'm probably not going to do it because it's going to be a pretty big set of transactions. But it's the same concept. This is where you would actually open up your general account and you would make sure that each and every transaction matches your bank record. And you can do this on a preview basis on a weekly manner as well, just like how you did your trust reconciliation. Okay? Same screen, same concept, it's just a different bank account. And you can actually do it for your credit cards and your general accounts as well. In fact, you can do it for cash accounts if you like to. Now, once you've generated these documents, these reconciliation documents, I would have to say, then you can start to generate the general ledgers. The reason why we didn't see the second Bean Murphy document was because there was no trust involved. Now, when I do generate the general ledger for Bean Murphy, you would see that it does bring it up for both of those matters. Okay? There you go. For Mr. Bean Murphy, speeding on Bay Street as well as fence issue. The speeding on Bay Street didn't have any trust, and that is why you do not see it in your trust ledger. Okay? So you've done your trust, you've done your general, then you continue down the path of generating all the journals. So the bottom line is, within the compliance panel, uLaw provides you a simple interface to provide and generate all of the Law Society's documents that you are expected to generate on a monthly manner. Okay? So let's do the trust receipt. You would click on the monthly, do it for the month of March, hit download. So on and so forth. Okay? Some important documents that sometimes are ignored by our clients include your fee book, expense book, as well as your Form 9As. Okay? So at any given time, if you want to be able to generate all the Form 9A, so a Form 9A is a document in Ontario that you need to generate every time that you do a trust transfer from a trust account into a general account. So if we've captured that document, then we are able to then regenerate it for you on demand. Okay? So here are all the Form 9As for the different clients that you have generated for the month of March so far. So for Ms. Ellen, you had a trust transfer from TD to Scotia, right? And that was for $300 on the 1st of March. That was Mr. Bean Murphy of the $862 that was moved from TD to Scotia on the 2nd of March, so on and so forth. And this is a very handy document so that you don't have to keep a physical copy of each of these Form 9As. You can generate this at the end of every week or every month, sign it, and file it. But this is a document that is expected out of you. Okay? So again, just to recap all of the accounting touch points that we've looked at today. We looked at Mr. Bean Murphy as a contact, became a client. We actually had a couple of matters that were created for him. We went ahead and docketing, dispersing, adding retainers in some cases, raising invoices. And before we closed, before closing the matter, we started today's session with how you can generate statements such as your trust, your general, as well as your settlement and accounts. We looked at how you can look at specific compliance guides, right, for all of the weekly checklists that you would conduct for a particular matter or for a specific set of clients. The monthly checklists obviously include your reconciliation, right, reconciling your trust and general account, all the Form 9As that we looked at later on. And a quarterly could be reviewing all of your professional commitments. Well, let's cover this in our next session. And I want to deviate from today's topic. So yeah, these were all of the documents we looked at. And then we moved on to accounting, document generation, and looked at all the compliance documents that you then generate on a monthly manner. Okay, your trust reconciliation, your general, and how you can actually generate a preview on a weekly basis so that you're always catching up as your memory is fresh. Okay? So with that, I'll probably wrap up today's, I would say, third in series of the onboarding Lunch and Learn. As part of our series of adding to these videos, our goal is to be able to provide you with simple videos that can explain a simple life cycle or a workflow of how you would use uLaw on a day-to-day basis, as well as generate the appropriate documents that you require to stay compliant. Okay? Well, thank you very much for your participation, and we'll look forward to seeing you in our next webinar. Take care.